Oh dear. Whoops. Sorry. Hey, so I just saw The Last Duel, and it was really good. I saw it last night, and as you can see, all right, I'll just pick this up because it fell. Uh, so I have thoughts on it that I want to go into. I didn't have time to go into it last night because by the time I got home, it was really late and everyone was in bed, and I didn't want to wake anyone up. Uh, so to start out, I did really like it. There were a lot of great things about it. The first two acts were very good, like just as is. I don't really have too much to complain about them, even though I feel like I would have done them slightly differently. It's not enough for me to nitpick. Uh, where my problem started to come in was like the third act of the movie, and this is the spoiler-free section of the review, so don't worry. Uh, I felt like they didn't. All right, maybe I just shouldn't go into why I don't like the third act in the spoiler-free section. So first off, I give the movie like an 8.75 out of 10, which now that I'm thinking about it feels like too much for how flawed the third act of the movie is. But it's still like a good third act is the thing. It just that it feels like there's no one really that I can root for by the end of the movie. All the characters just feel like they slowly become less and less likable throughout the movie until like you get to a point where you're like, just let them all die. I don't care. I kind of hate all of them now. Uh, and I don't know. I don't really like being in that position, especially when the movie's about as touchy of subject matter as it is. It kind of feels a little nasty to be put into that sort of position. And it was doing a very good job in the first two acts handling that. I thought that the way that it was delving into the psyche of like uh rapists was very interesting. And just kind of the whole psychological element of the film was very well done. And I also really liked the structuring of the film. I really liked a lot of things about it. Most of the technical aspects were pretty good. The performances, for the most part, were pretty good. Ben Affleck definitely had the most fun, and he was the most fun to watch. He was like the only one that I actually wanted to see, like by the end of the movie. The rest of the characters, I was like, just go away. I don't care about you anymore. I'm sick of all of you. But it was still like a very entertaining movie. The actual duel is fun, but it's way shorter than I thought it would be, so that's kind of disappointing. The movie also feels just kind of standard and generic, which is a little disappointing. And they showed too much off in the trailers, so that's a little. I feel like the best way to go into this movie would be blind. So sorry that I said would be rapists. I probably shouldn't have said that if I wanted you to go in blind, but you know. Uh, I guess though, how I would have done it differently, I don't know if we're going into spoilers yet, but I would change it so that instead of like have all the different points of view be like uh hearsay. So like don't have one single perspective be like, all right, now this is the truth. Have like little specks of truth in all of the points of view, and then have like, you know, little specks of lies in all the perspectives as well, because you only get like so much reality and so much lying in every perspective because people only see like what they want to see and what they can see, and it's not really anyone's fault that their perspective is that way. So I feel like if it was a little more evened out that way, I would have preferred that. I'm trying to keep it spoiler free right now before we go into the spoiler section. Yeah, I thought the cinematography was gorgeous for the movie. It was very well done, though I felt like it could have been more well done, if that makes sense. I'll go into that more in the spoiler section. Yeah, I think I'm ready to go into the spoiler section. So if you have not seen The Last Duel, be wary of spoilers. So first off, the first thing that I wanted to address was I thought that they handled the Am driver perspective really well, especially during the section where it's during his point of view, where you see how to him, uh, it wasn't a rape at all. It was consensual. Not only that, but it was like more of a game. Like, she was playing hard to get like all these other ladies at a party. Like they did a great job like explaining like his mindset, but being subtle about it and never like holding your hand about it and being just like really dark and disturbing and unsettling and just gross about it. Like I really liked that. It was a very interesting like thing to think about where it's like, huh, so this guy like doesn't think what he did was wrong. He doesn't even realize that he did something wrong, which is fascinating. It's also horrifying. uh and the fact that this woman just like brings up a rape charge against him, he's like, yo, she's like kind of evil though. And then when you get to her perspective, I'm like, well, he's not wrong when he says that she's kind of evil though. And where the movie kind of falls apart, in my opinion, is when you get to her perspective, it's such a letdown. Because you're like, all right, I'm so ready to root for her now when it becomes her perspective. And for her to explain away, like, why she was acting the way she was acting in the first two perspectives, and for me it'd be like, yeah, you go girl and all that, but then when you get to her perspective, she turns out to be like more evil than the first two people, even though she's like the victim. Like she constantly victimizes herself even though she goes out of her own way to make sure that she gets raped. It's like, why? This is not what I want. She purposefully does the whole play hard to get thing, which I thought would have only been from the rapist perspective, but no. She does do the whole like, haha, I'm smiling at you. Oh, I'm looking at your penis. Come get me. The whole like that whole thing, and like constantly like giving him all these signs like she wants to have sex with him, and then she's shocked when he has sex with her because like she gave him all these signs, and when a woman asks her about it, uh she says, I like having all these men wrapped around my finger. Aren't these men so dumb? And then she turns out to be the dumb one because they're not as wrapped around her finger as she thinks, and her plan worked a little too well, and then she points all the finger at them when the finger should be pointed at her. And I don't get why everyone was like saying she was like the protagonist and she was like the good guy and stuff like that, because it doesn't really feel like that. Just because she's like the woman and she was the one that was raped doesn't automatically make her like as innocent as everyone else, because it feels like she instigated it more than like you would be led to believe. Because like I was guessing that she would have been like, but she's kind of like as bad as everyone else in the movie, to be honest. Like everyone's just a full-on scumbag. At least Ben Affleck's fun to watch as being a scumbag. And he like fully commits to it. And he's like, yeah, there's no good in me, so what? Like everyone has a little bit of good and a little bit of bad in them, which I think is something that's interesting about the movie. And I get that like the things I'm complaining about aren't exactly like huge flaws, but like it just kind of irked me because like it's not really fun watching a movie where all these people are so heinous to each other, and like it's just like they're all using each other and these women are treated like objects, and it's like shocking and disturbing. And yeah, I get it's accurate for the time period, and like that technically makes it good and all that, and it's like commentary and things like that, but it's still like just unpleasant when you get to that third act, and it's just like ah. And in the first two acts I was fine with like the unpleasantness because it was like par for the course. It was like, yeah, okay, the women being mistreated, that's like, she's gonna get her comeuppance, though. And then it's like, the third act seems to say, no, she deserved the mistreatment. And it's like, I don't think that's a message you want to be sending, though, because that's really messed up. That's not something you want to say. Women do not deserve to be mistreated. So, like, portraying, like, a woman that you say is based on a true story in the past, and you're like, yeah, she deserved what she got, and all that. It's like, really though? I don't know. I just didn't really like what I was taking away from the movie. It seemed like very cynical and nasty. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I took away the wrong thing from the movie. That's totally fine. I don't know. It was still a really good movie. I still really liked it, but like I just really had to go into that. I did like the subtle changes between all the perspectives, but I would have gone more all out. Like, have the different scenes when they repeat themselves be drastically different. And the truth would just have to be, like, somewhere in between all the perspectives that you never really get to see. Because no one ever really knows what the truth really is. So, like, don't have that fading title card of the truth with the woman. Because she was literally lying every single breath she took. So that was not the truth. Why did you put the title card of the truth with her? Because she was not telling the truth. That perspective was not the truth. We know this because she was lying every single like word she said. She was so like duplicitous and like two-faced. It was like she was like the worst one to watch. It was like the one we spent the most time with as her perspective. Like the third act was like the longest part of the movie, and it was like the most dull part of the movie. It was the least fun to watch. It took forever to get to like the actual duel, and I was just waiting for it to happen. Part of it might be just because like I was starting to feel like a little sick during the third act, but yeah.